So we've been getting a few calls, and I'm sure if you follow social media, you have seen some posts regarding the condition of the lakes. We're certainly entering that period of the year where the forces are working against us. We have little rain, temperatures coming up. Ponds are getting shallower thanks to evaporation. So ultimately, when that happens, we run into massive algae bloom. And it's not in every lake. It's in some lakes, and others appear to be healthy. And lakes tend to take on a health of their own. So, but what we're going to do today is we're going to bring our pond expert, if you will, Kyle Ray. He's our property manager. He oversees the lakes department and what those guys do every day for you guys out there. So, kind of to put it in perspective, Sandestin has just north of 80 lakes that comprise over 300 acres, plus or minus 300 acres. All require some sort of maintenance. Each lake is probably requires a different kind of maintenance, but we got 4 guys that do nothing but lake maintenance full time. So put all that in perspective, and you can do the math. So there's a lot of work to be done on the lakes, but I believe we did a manager's moment or another Tom Talks about the lakes and how they're maintained and things you can do to help us. But we're specifically going to speak a little bit today about this recent algae blooms and the smells, and let Kyle kind of explain what all happened this week that led to some of the nastiness and the odors that some of you may have encountered. So we'll turn it over to Kyle Ray now, and he'll give you a briefing on what's going on with the lakes. Welcome, Kyle. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's hot outside, and as you have noticed, the lakes are in full bloom. Everybody's fertilizing right now. You've probably seen the truck out on the golf course and making the grass pretty and green, but unfortunately everything rolls downhill, and whatever you get to put on your garden or grass or shrubs to make them healthy and bloom also does the same thing for the weed growth in the ponds and the algae. It's a cyclical thing. We have it every year. We're combating that the best we can with algicides, herbicides. We've had our aquatic weed harvester out in the lakes all this week. We had a subcontractor actually out the week before on the lakes. It's a tough job. A lot of times one of the common things I hear about, well, the lakes in this part of the resort look so much better than these. You know, we pay just as much, and I assure you it's not that. Each lake has basically its own personality. You know, a lot of that depends on the watershed, what's around it, how many lakes are connected to that one. Is the lake on a golf course that gets mowed, you know, every other day, and it gets lots of fertilizer put on it? Is the lake out by itself, by a rough? You know, there's some ponds we never have to do anything with, and then others are kind of like our problem children that we always have to give more attention to.
You mentioned a little bit about the weed harvester, and they've been hitting that hot and heavy lately. But I think yesterday it was in one of the lakes on the south side and had it nice and pristine. And what happened, you come to work today and we've had another algae bloom, and it looks like nothing's happened.
Yeah, I was just on the south side of the property, and one of the first lakes there at the Tivoli Bridge, we had the harvester in there, and our lake tech had got the algae out of it. The lake looked 100% better. There was a little bit left on one end in a shallow area that he couldn't get to. You know, we can spray that. And when I went out this afternoon to look at the landscaping over there in the lakes, you couldn't tell that we had been there. It pops up the way the algae, some of it It will grow on the bottom of the pond, and as the water temperature heats up and gases build up as things break down, that gas causes the algae to float to the top, and that's what happens. We can get it looking good one day, and the next day Mother Nature is worked against us.
It's a true statement to say that we're treating the lakes as best that we can with what we're able to treat them with, and what works in one lake doesn't necessarily work in another lake. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We have an aquatic weed permit from Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. That's their new name. But it limits us on what we can use. We're in a very environmentally sensitive area.
So one of the things we've seen on social media in one of the lakes was the blue-green algae and the odor that come from that. And I think that it's kind of a misconception, and there's been some recent application of Algae fertilizer. So is that maybe?
Yeah, the two things kind of they both have an odor to them. Of course, the mill organite. If you Google that, you can see what it is. And when they spread it by truck, the wind catches it, and it does have a smell, just like where it came from. The blue-green algae, it can smell like a pig pen. That's probably one of the worst things about it. There's many different types of cyanobacteria, which is what blue-green algae is. But we do our best to use algicides to treat it. We have aeration in many areas where we've had historical problems with it. But yeah, both of those can stink.
So I know there's a bunch of different types of weeds that we have to treat. What are some of the predominant ones that we're seeing right now that looks like algae, when it's not always algae, it's some other form?
We've got duckweed that's popping up. That's a very invasive weed. It almost looks like a bahia grass seed, and that'll start on a pond. One day you look and there's maybe a 5-gallon bucket size mass of it, and then the day after that, the whole pond's covered. Torpedo grass is blooming. It's doing really well. But really the algae, we have two kinds, Pathophora and Lingbia. Lingbia is the black stuff that gets out there. It is very hard to control. Alligator weed, that's another thing that we've got. Although we have noticed that there is a alligator flea beetle that is on the plant in Sandestin, and it is actually one of Mother Nature's best little friends, I guess. It gets down in the tuber and eats it, but we've got a variety of stuff that's blooming.
Does that mean our alligator population has fleas on it?
I wish. Maybe
we don't have an alligator population.
No,
just kidding. We have one every now and then. But well, Kyle, I certainly appreciate it, and thanks for stopping by.
Yes.
But we want you guys to know that that our team is as concerned about the conditions of the lakes as you are. We understand that in many cases it's your backyard, and don't think that we're not taking it lightly. The maintenance committee meets. They talked extensively this morning about the lakes and their conditions and things that we can do to improve those within our limits. So just understand that we get it, and Kyle's team is out there and doing the best job that they can. Remember, we've got over 80 lakes pushing 300 acres. So when you divide that by 4 people, that's a lot of work to be done. So again, thank you, Kyle.
Yes, thank you.
And as always, if there's anything that you want us to talk about here on Tom Talks, just email SOA@soaowners.com and we'll get you an answer. Have a good one.